say that, while ransomware is crushing us, there is something that's crushing us more. And that's what I'm here to talk about. And that's how we all interact with each other and how we find jobs. Those two things are causing our talent gap issue to actually now be more of a national security issue, not less. And so, I like to bring sunshine to all of my meetings. I will bring that. And yet, what we've got to talk about here, you can see in my key takeaways, is so serious that it can be overwhelming. I know that for me, if I don't keep myself exercising and doing breathing exercises and such, that this amount of knowledge that I have is overwhelming and scary. So these are the 4 takeaways that we're going to get into. Organizations with high emotional intelligence will win the talent war, and there is a talent war. The shortage is super significant. Women in cybersecurity and the lack of them and the lack of them being promoted is a national security issue. We know this. I'm going to get into some serious data and share with you all. And then we have to talk about the state of the job market. We have a massive broken system, which is deep into my soul. Being that, not only am I the recipient of working in high EQ environments, which I want you to understand about me before I go in and tell you all this information as to where do I get it from. I was lucky enough to start at Motion Recruitment out of college. I'm a sociology criminal justice major. I thought I would be a criminal attorney. A lot of discouragement being a woman, and found myself joining 2 serial entrepreneurs and the companies that they were building, which first was Motion Recruitment. I worked for them for 21 years. So Motion, Rapid7, Percussion, they were all founded by the same people. So by 2 years in, I was the vice president of sales. So while I started in '94, I had moved up the ladder. And I spent 13 years doing technical recruiting, then built Rapid7 sales. So I took that model of being humanly passionate about other humans and helping them and put it into software sales. And that's where I met the cyber community, which I fell in love with as a sociologist and a criminal justice brain. I love this community, never mind how important the work we're all doing is. Same founders asked me to go into Percussion, one of their older software companies, and I did what I needed to do there, but I missed staffing, I missed cybersecurity, that was content management, and I founded CyberSN. Secure diversity was actually after, which sorry about the order there. But anyhow, CyberSN, we're the largest cybersecurity staffing firm with a job matching proprietary common language taxonomy for roles and responsibilities. And we are deep into what's happening in the industry. And part of being deep in it, I was in it 6 months before I realized how many women were missing from the industry. And that's when I founded Secure Diversity. And we're doing all kinds of things to bring women into the industry. And I'll share a little bit about that later. But let's get into it. I really wanted you to understand my background so that you can understand that I come from high EQ, emotional intelligent people who had systems mapped out that people like myself out of college could walk into, and there was equality, and I'm so thankful. And that's why I'm out preaching, if you will. All right, so what is EQ? So thankful that emotional intelligence is now something that I see common, in conversations on LinkedIn. Security practitioners are really interested in this conversation. Started talking about it at RSA myself 5 years ago and have been talking about it ever since. And it's really the ability to understand and actually be interested in how others think, feel, and perceive. So the capacity to be aware and control your emotions based on understanding how others think, feel, and perceive is how I look at it. Here's a definition on screen here. But really what's so fascinating is certainly I didn't understand that this, methodology or even that the skill set existed. I just walked into an environment that had the right behaviors and the right words being used. But as I founded my own company and even funded it myself, I started being interviewed a lot, and people say, well, how did you do this? How did you get so successful? And so in my early 40s, I'm now 50, I started thinking, shoot, how did all this happen? And that's when I went to research as well as think about my career. Like, what was it? How do I explain it? And found emotional intelligence. Until then, I'm sure like most of us, all I heard about was IQ, which turns out is about test taking, which is super fascinating. And together they make our personality. And what's really great to know about emotional intelligence skills, and I'm going to share skills that I teach in my organizations as well as out in classes, is that we can continue to grow our emotional intelligence skills. And that's the saving grace of this all. Our IQ actually caps out when our brain stops fully developing, whereas emotional intelligence can continue to grow. And so that's the good news for us all. Soft skills is something that was used before emotional intelligence. And it's so interesting because when I first started talking about this, I was using soft skills and I'd get a lot of pushback about them not being important. But as soon as I started putting it under the emotional intelligence space, it started to get traction, which is great. Doesn't matter as long as we're listening. But, when we look at the marketplace today, even you all, not even you all, but you all are raising your hand saying, hey, the biggest gap is soft skills, which is emotional intelligence, how we communicate, our words, our behavior. And I can tell you that this gap at the management level is even higher. It's really unfortunate. It's a product of only teaching salespeople these skills, in my opinion. It's a product of these skills not really being taught at all in school. And so it has to change. And the good news is that it's changing. One of the biggest reasons that it's changing is, I'm sure as you all can guess, what makes things happen? What's the number one reason that makes things happen? Money. Unfortunately, and a study like this that's now 5-6 years old that is proving that soft skills make more money for organizations. And once we start tying money to skills, people listen, which is wonderful, and that's what's happening. It is being proven time in and time out that those managers that show up to work with high emotional intelligence, which means to care for their folks and can care for themselves in a way that allows empathy and generosity and curiosity and engagement versus dictating, those organizations, those teams, they thrive. They absolutely thrive. I remember when I was about 25, 26, we had some investment firms coming through our offices, and we were working in bullpens, and we were deemed bottled lightning. They just loved coming into the office. Everybody was happy and engaged, and I love that term, bottled lightning. That's what happens when we have high EQ environments, when we have mentally safe environments. So because we only have 45 minutes together, and I've got a lot to cover, we're going to move pretty quickly here. But these are the skills of EQ. These are skills that have to be taught, practiced, and continued to be practiced. Just like our hard skills have to be practiced, so do our EQ skills. So for instance, even positive attitude. That is not something that a lot of people even think about bringing to work every day. And what does it mean? And how do you do it? And, empathy, right? These are skills. How do you have empathy in a high pressure environment? How do you have empathy when things are, really in an upset place? These are skills. And the answer is you have to really understand what it means, and then you have to practice. And so I really encourage all organizations to start to adopt programs that teach win-win communication, teach all of these skills you see here, making and managing, that should say, measurable agreements, excuse me. These are critical. to our ability to interact. And again, they produce high-performing organizations. I can tell you that every organization I've been a part of, because of the high EQ, has been just fantastic results. So I could talk about that for hours. We've got things to get into. We're going to move now into how are we doing with diversity. They will tie hand in hand, but I will also offer that this discussion can continue after. I'm happy to engage. So how are we doing with diversity in cybersecurity? If we're not doing too great with emotional intelligence, which I'm going to show you the stats in a minute here, then we're probably not doing so great with diversity. For a quarter of our companies have diversity initiatives. We've seen that since diversity initiatives started, that there's a lot of turnover, even with the diversity leaders. And so while we are struggling to have organizations adopt diversity initiatives, we're also struggling with these diversity initiatives working. And I really think that stems, I know that it stems from the fact that we think that just because we want diversity, we can have diversity, meaning we're going to put all of our work into recruiting diverse professionals in, and yet not work on our cultures that most likely are not capable of absorbing diverse professionals. And thus inclusive work environments have to be really available before diversity can actually exist. And so, this means that we have two problems. One is bringing in diversity professionals, and the other is having cultures that can actually foster them and make sure that they're successful. And the reason why this is truly a problem is because it's a problem for all genders. I'm going to show you in a minute the statistics of the amount of job movement that's happening in our industry, pre-COVID, post-COVID. It's not new. It's gotten worse because of burnout, and I'll explain some of that in a minute. But we've got this culture in society, and we happen to be speaking about the cybersecurity community, but it bleeds into society in general, that the low EQ is causing work cultures to have lots of turnover constant. Never have we seen more turnover than we've seen in the last 15 years, which is really the digital age. And then on top of that, of course, we have women feeling inferior, women not being promoted and moving up. I mean, we've barely just got in the game of legally being equal. So, while there's some improvement, we are struggling, and all genders are struggling with work cultures. And this is a national security issue because I see it at scale. At scale, I watch people, I watch the marketplace, I shall say, and the movement is scary. And, the movement up for women is super low, 13% of the Fortune 500. There's a big piece of this that is a barrier based on economics in terms of the types of credentials that it takes to get to those seats that are at the top versus the seats that are at the middle. And it is very true that one must continue to have a big financial investment in certifications and degrees to get to those seats. And so we've got that on top of just not having enough women to begin with, of course. And so we really need, again, to look at the entire system. How can we have an inclusive environment so that everybody has an opportunity to be successful and feel included? It is absolutely our jobs as individuals to participate in this solution as much as it is the managers of our teams and as much as it is the executives that oversee those managers. And yet, as individuals in a marketplace where you're so wanted, by voting with your feet, if people aren't interested in making inclusive environments, it will make a difference. And I know that's not easy to do, and moving jobs is not fun. Searching is broken, as we're going to talk about. But at the end of the day, it can be done. And there are people out there that are creating inclusive cultures. And those that don't will not have the talent. The shortage is significant, and it takes years to create the skills of these professionals once they're in their seats. So as a society, we must own EQ. We see it in the stats that I've just shown you with how women are doing. We're going to see it in stats overall for all genders that I'm about to show you all. But it is incumbent of us all. And gender is one piece of it. So is race, so is age, so is socioeconomic status. So together, a call to arms, we've got to spread the word. We've got to tell everybody about all the jobs that are in cybersecurity today and to come get involved. And then we need to have a high accountability to how we interact with each other and treat each other. Because today, the landscape is showing that we've got 895,572 cybersecurity professionals in the field today. And I'm sure you all are as horrified as I am when we think about the demand piece, but I don't know that we all understand how bad the demand piece is. So this is the demand piece from the perspective of jobs that people can count from job postings and surveying organizations, but not all organizations get surveyed by any means. And just like the presenter before me was talking about in terms of just the amount of attacks that are upon us, in the last 2 years, the amount of organizations that have woken up to the need for security professionals has literally been 100 times greater. So when I started CyberSN 7 years ago, I thought that my phones would be ringing off the hook, considering how many open roles there were. And truly, even though we've grown so big so fast, it was all through outward work more than inward. And that's changed in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, it's significantly changed. And what happened was everybody went remote. Security professionals got overworked. And then we started to see the ransomware, and these companies that weren't having these issues started to have significant issues, and then pipeline and regulation. And so these companies are waking up, and we see a significant amount of companies that are just starting to hire teams, whole teams, never having hired cybersecurity professionals before. And these are not just small companies, not even close to it. So the demand isn't really showing in those numbers anywhere near what's happening. And on top of that, we've got this misunderstanding of roles and responsibilities. This is a screenshot of our career center where we've mapped out all roles to 10 categories and 45 functions. This is defense highlighted here, and everything to know about these jobs is there. But I originally built this taxonomy with our chief security officer 5 years ago and turned it into an internal job building technology application and an application for interviewing professionals such that we could actually make matches that made sense. But the reason I had to do it is because nobody was speaking the same language. And what a security engineer meant to one company could mean 20 different things to 20 different companies. And so I had to really build out every task, every project that could be associated with any title or these titles, right? Such that we could be in the conversation of, do they need to do this? Do they need to do this? Do they need to do that? And so, having now turned it into a job matching platform that is public and launching at Black Hat, so that the public can use it internationally, it's going to make a big difference, because what we've got out in the industry right now is attacks at its all-time high. We're all feeling it more and more every day. And yet you all have to protect these organizations, and roles and responsibilities aren't clearly defined, and budgets are low, and our attackers are diverse, but we're not diverse. All of this adds to this horrible statistic that has been around since I opened CyberSN. It's now getting worse. 84% of cybersecurity professionals are open to a new job opportunity. That's terrible. It's just terrible. We can't be effective if we don't stick together. And if somebody needs to look for a job, that means they're not loving where they're working. And if they're not loving it, and depending on how much love goes down to hate, they're not productive / could be a vulnerability. And I feel for them, because I feel for you all. I get it. I see it. The EQ out there is low and the budgets are low. So, but this is a real problem that we have. And what's even worse is that even though all these people are open to job searching's a broken system. Job searching and hiring it's such a broken system that doing this, even in the shortage, I skipped the slide, even in the shortage, it's super hard to find what one is looking for. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But let's look at this. We just said 89% or whatever, that was 87 or what have you. Folks are open to a new opportunity. And, this survey that ISACA did it really speaks to the problem, because, okay, recruited by other companies as 59%. Well, what that means is that 59% falls into one of those categories underneath, because recruiters can't make somebody pick up the phone and join a conversation and interview. They can pitch something that is missing that they don't have. And unless that person takes up the call and that recruiter has the right pitch, that recruiting is not happening. And how many people even pick up the call, and how many people get the right pitch of the incoming email? And so what that really means is they're really looking, and a recruiter called them, because they're not going to find it by job searching. We know this, right? Job searching is a broken system. So that means they're either leaving because they have limited promotion and development opportunities or poor financial incentives. I will talk about that in a minute. I don't agree with that. High work stress levels, poor cultures, that's what we see. We've seen it before COVID. We're seeing it worse after COVID, because now security has to cover IT and support IT, never mind the threats increasing, and the lack of teammates. The burnout is at a level that is scary. And so why do I say I don't agree with poor financial incentives? Because we don't hear that. That's not why people are calling us, or that's not why people are taking our in-mails or are coming to our platform and making a profile. That's not why at all. When they go to make the move and the offer stage comes into play, of course, everybody gets more money. It's sort of the way the things work, or a better package. But that's not why they opened the door. And yet that's why they tell people at their current company why they're leaving, because nobody wants to tell HR. Nobody wants to tell even the people that they work with the exact reasons, because then it can be held against them, and people need references, or now they have to be in a discussion about defending how they're feeling, or any of those things. Who wants that? That's not fun. So people tell people all the time, I got this incredible offer. And because of how much the market is, strapped, it's easy to understand that could be a reason, because, money matters for us all. And yet let's not think about yourself. I mean, how many of us ever picked up the phone or answered a recruiting call because of money? It's a very tiny percentage. So I love this statistic in that, it lists all the things that are going on, but it also lists the sort of the cover-ups, if you will, to what's going on, because what we see every day and all day is growth and opportunity just as much as the environment. And what's most interesting is why we're seeing so much more of the environment is there's a lot of acquisitions going on the West Coast. Those acquisitions are a lot of disruption on already burnt out culture or community from dealing with COVID and remote workforces and all the uptick in attacks. And that is a specific West Coast thing. So it's just really taking burnout to an ultimate high. We all know what happens with acquisitions and mergers. It's chaos, but it's happening at high scale because billions have been made in the last 2 years. I mean, it is a billionaires world now, not a millionaires world. And that is largely in tech. And so we see that heavily on the West. And on the East, what we're seeing is same thing, growth and opportunity up there with burnout from being overworked and doing 2 or 3 jobs, but also the remote challenges upon the East Coast companies, in that a lot of East Coast companies want professionals to come back to the workforce, back into the office, and people don't want to do it. They're not going to do it. And that is causing even more resignations. And so people ask me, is the Great Resignation hitting cybersecurity? And I say, yes, it's hitting cybersecurity because of the burnout, and it's hitting cybersecurity because of the acquisitions, pressure, and it's also because of the remote. People do not want to go back. We see at the management level, people are willing to go back in, but at the individual contributor level, no. So here's the stats. I mean, I don't know about you. I've seen people retiring in their 40s and their 50s. We're seeing lots of people saying, you know what, I'm just going to take 6 months off. I mean, this isn't all work too, although we've got a challenge at work. Think about what, all the things that have been happening in people's personal lives from COVID. I mean, anybody that's got children at home during all of this, I can't even imagine anybody, the amount of health of family members, I mean, beyond what we're doing at work. And so, this is something that we have to raise the alarm on. I was super happy to hear yesterday that a congresswoman in Indiana, state of Chicago, spoke about this yesterday, about the lack of cybersecurity professionals as a national security issue, and also speaking about the state of how we're all doing. So I'm super excited about that, because we've got to bring this to attention. And, money is a piece of this problem for sure, because most cybersecurity leaders are struggling to get anywhere near the amount of budget that's needed for succession planning. And, the number one reason succession planning happens is a lack of teammates to, do the work. And people doing 2, 3, we just started hearing people say for the first time in the last few months, 4 jobs. Like, I mean, they're actually saying that number. And so, the only way to build these teams is what we've learned, 100 years ago in the manufacturing era, in the financial era, which is succession planning. And that requires hiring more than one person for the same role. And doesn't mean they have to be as senior as that one person, but it does mean an investment. It does mean training. And it is a challenge. And I feel for everybody dealing with this. It's not fun. Not fun at all, because, at the end of the day, what cybersecurity professional is going to close their computer when there's possibly an attack happening that they just saw, even though they've been working 12 hours, or 10 hours. It's, how do you do that? How do you I can see something, but man, I've been at this all day, and there's just really not enough coverage. And imagine if you're a protector, which you all are, being a protector, like, when you see that, you can't even possibly shut that door. So it's really, really important that we back ourselves up And that anybody who is willing to take or does take a management position, which means that you are overseeing others, that you are responsible for making sure that there is a equal playing field and a mentally safe environment. And the way you do that is by understanding that everybody wants the same things. There isn't a human out there that doesn't want the same thing that I want, which is to feel valued and to have measurable agreements about my job so that I can measure myself and know how to feel versus waiting to be told at some point. A positive, productive communication environment, career pathing, consistent training and learning. I mean, our brains are designed to continue to learn and grow and develop, and to not have that, you know, of course, that's a problem. Wage equity with peers. Yeah, everybody wants that. And, you know, somebody said to me one time, well, I want to make more than my peers. And I say, well, then they're not your peers, you know, like have a greater skill, you know, meaning, or a skill that pays more, you know, that's the way to do that. It isn't about, you know, sort of negotiating your own deal and the person that can't negotiate as great as the other person loses out. No, it's okay. You can make more money. It doesn't have to be that there's inequality in wages. And to work around kind, respectful people. I mean, this is what people want. I rolled out at ISC Squared this week, my new behavioral standards for inclusive cultures. And I really am excited about this because for years and years, I've been asked, what's the framework? How do I do this? How do I have a culture where everybody is successful, or excuse me, feeling good, creating successful environments and are highly diverse? And so, you know, it's really about having these standards in place. And I just can't stress enough of how it starts with management, because, you know, managers are in charge of anybody that reports to them's livelihood. That's how I look at it. I mean, you know, I used to think that my emotions were created 50% by me and 50% by whoever I was engaging, because that's what I grew up being told. My relationships are 50% me, 50% you, and therefore you could make me feel bad. And the reality is, in one's personal life, unless it's an abuse or harm, I don't believe that that's true, because I choose my emotions. My brain chooses my own emotions, choose to be happy, sad, or what have you. But at work, when you have another human who is literally in charge of your livelihood based on how they act, how they advocate, how they support, that goes out the window. And so much so that I remember being 23, my first time getting into management, and my mentor said, "Are you ready to turn on and off the lights?" And I thought, well, I can't believe she's asking me this. I'm the earliest in, the last out. So I said, of course I am. And I didn't know what she was talking about, but years later, I heard her talking about this in a management meeting, and it dawned on me, duh, that's what she meant, which is, to be a manager means I have the ability to turn somebody off, and I have the ability to turn them on, because I'm in charge of their livelihood. And I take that really seriously. Luckily, naturally, I had that, but I really love that concept of turning on and off lights. We all know that's the truth. And if we think about our cyber professionals out there protecting us, and in this stressful, focused environment, and just a few words can completely distract their ability to be focused. So not something that we shall take lightly. Never mind anything else on this list. I can't stress enough how important roles and responsibilities clearly defined is, because there isn't one thing you can take off of this list and actually have an inclusive environment. That's how important everything on this list is. But when it comes to clearly defined roles and responsibilities, and I find this is where the most disruption happens within organizations. People not knowing what other people's jobs are, people expecting people to do certain things, people expecting projects to have a certain amount of somebody's time or what have you. And so really there's a lot of chaos around that didn't just bleeds into career promotions and the criteria. And so I just can't stress enough how operationally one has to own written roles and responsibilities. You can use my building technology for free. It'll save you so much time / be very comprehensive. And that is why I gave it to the world for free, because A, I can't service everybody anyways. And B, this is super, important to the churn that's happening right now in the office of what do these professionals do? And how do I convey to others in the company what cybersecurity professionals do, or to executives, or to get funding? This common language taxonomy makes it so that everybody will understand. So I encourage you to do that. All right, here we're running out of time. We've got about 8 minutes, and I certainly want to open up to questions in a minute. So my slides will be available. I go into every single one of those standards. I am happy to continue to have this conversation another time around each one of these with anybody that wants to talk about it. This is how roles and responsibilities really look. I mean, I just took a snapshot of our jobs after one was created, but so the money you can ignore, but this is what I mean by roles and responsibilities. How much time doing what tasks or what responsibilities is super duper important. And I want to leave with this, which is, what do we do? I just gave you a lot of problems, and we must still laugh, and we must still enjoy life, and yet this problem needs all of our attention. And so what I'm asking is that you tell everybody in the industry, or tell everybody you know about our industry. Those jobs that I showed you, the Career Center, there's highly technical roles, sort of technical roles, and then lots of non-technical roles. There is no person in society that cannot be in cybersecurity. So spread the word, get them interested, get rid of the keyboard and the hoodie perspective or the bad person perspective. Help get rid of that. And demand high emotional intelligence work environments, demand investments in that kind of training. It is possible. And if we do these two things, then we can bridge our talent gap, and we can have happy people at work. And therefore we will be more secure, and that we could attract and retain diversity professionals who can help us defend ourselves against diverse attackers. And it's a numbers game. Who's going to win this? Period. It's, as a country, we have to get everybody involved. So I leave you with that. I also leave you with, here's a bunch of organizations that support diversity. My slides will be available. And last but not least, if you haven't heard about Day of Security, we're having our seventh event next week. It's free to anybody. Any woman who is interested, is what I meant, in cybersecurity or in cybersecurity. So it's all women presenters, red team, blue team, compliance, EQ tracks. And it's for women that want to hear about cybersecurity and women that are in cybersecurity, and it is free. And we have great sponsors: Netflix, Amazon, Auth-O, Lookout, lots of sponsors that are hiring for entry level as well as experience. So bottom line is, thank you for having me. Want to open up to questions, and I enjoyed, this is my contact information, I should say. Lots in 45 minutes.
You did it. Oh, well, we actually have 5 minutes, but
yeah, I know. No, I'm saying I just put out lots in 40 minutes.
You usually do, yeah, but it's interesting, and you have a particular way of saying things that you just keep listening, and you have you make this question. So thank you very much for that, Deidre. I have a question for you, because you closed that on you know, on the people's note, and bringing more people. How do you prepare people once you have them in your organization? Once you have them there, how do you prepare them for the particular stress that can that ransomware can bring, you know, to maybe, I was about to say, you know, like an untrained mind, but it's not like that, you know.
Sure.
Besides from emotional intelligence, that there are certain things that come to play. You know, it's different for everyone, of course, because we have different, you know, motivations and different things that we put, that we give, you know, interest and we give value to. But how do you prepare it? It's quite a broad question as well. But how do you prepare these people just to I don't know, maybe treat it like a problem, like a regular problem, just not give it, just not put it, you know, not go into panic because of the situation.
Right. Well, you know, had we had time to go into all of the pieces of what an emotionally intelligent environment is, one of them is self-care. And a part of self-care is breathing techniques. And if you do breathing techniques on a regular basis, you as a human will be much more equipped with staying calm, cool, and collected, which is what is needed during any attack, is that people staying calm, cool, collected. It's one of the things I love about cyber professionals the most, is how they're able to stay calm, cool, and collected. And yet you're right, that doesn't mean that they don't need tools to help them stay calm, cool, and collected now with the amount that's happening of attacks. And so even, you know, I spend a lot of, not a lot, every day I do a breath exercise, and I have a security team. You know, I might not be the person working on the breach, but when something goes down, I feel it too, and I'm around, or what have you, right? High stakes we all live in this business of being in business is, and protecting oneself, one's personal self too. It's super high stakes. So I think it's really about self-care of your body, self-care of your mind, which means breathing, exercise, good food, lots of water, and you know what? Sleep. And that means, I've said this years ago, and I keep saying it, you know what? Our security operations center people, our incident responders, our people that are involved in breaches or attacks, they need a place to sleep. So if they're working in the office, let's treat them like emergency workers. Emergency doctors and nurses, they have rooms to sleep. So let's do that too. But it isn't one thing, it's all of those things.
Yeah, oh, of course, it's brilliant. You know, just to get the, you know, the brain ready for, and to be alert, with a proper that sort of a proper measurement of that. If you can't be like excessively alert, that'll become like straight away become stress, and you would probably take, you know, make a wrong call, make a wrong decision. But yeah, it's just about the way I see it, just about to be able to perform when it comes, when the moment comes. You know, you have a breach, or you have this situation that you have to take care of, and you need to just leave those emotions. And then as you were saying, a way of educating your staff, while educating your staff, just saying, yeah, that time will come, and you'll have to be able to use your resources. So it's not just about you know, just being part of it, but being conscious that there's so much in place. There's so much at stake for everyone, and well, it's great. All the work that you've been doing with the community and everything. We've said it last time, but I want to thank you again. Of course, it's a pleasure to have you. You are definitely you're a rock star. So thank you again on behalf of the Cyber Institute, and we'll stay in touch. We'll definitely be sharing this later, so you'll be able to just get hold of the content, and be able to interact with more people, and continue to make our community grow.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.